Tyson Sullivan. Glad to be here with you. Thanks for coming on South Coast Chronicles.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
How long you been sober?
I've been sober for 9 years.
Oh,
My
wow.
sobriety date is January 13th, 2015.
Nice. And you're from Orange County originally?
Born and raised here.
At Hogue?
No, I was born at, it was some hospital in Garden Grove. I forgot the name of it. It's not around anymore, though.
So born in Garden Grove. What year was that?
79.
79. So
Yep.
you're a 70s baby like me. I was 72.
Nice.
Nice. So born in Garden Grove. And did you grow up in Garden Grove?
Grew up in Santa Ana.
Okay.
Yep.
Santa Ana. So what was that like? Brothers, sisters? Like, what was your childhood like?
My childhood, I have two, my parents are still married.
Oh, wow.
They grew up in Santa Ana as well.
How long have they been married?
They've been married for 49 years.
Oh, wow.
They just celebrated 49 years.
You're away from 50.
We're gonna do. We got to do something super special for the 50th.
Absolutely. What's that called? That's your gold wedding anniversary.
Yeah,
right? 50,
I think
like
it's
yeah.
maybe silver. I don't
Silver's
know.
25.
Okay, then it's got to be the gold, right?
Got to be gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've been high school sweethearts since 14 years old.
Are they from Orange County?
They grew up they both were not born here. They moved here with their families. My dad came from Boston. My mom came from Texas.
Oh, your mom's a Texan?
My mom's a Texan from El Paso.
Oh, from El Paso.
Yeah.
Okay, and so your dad's from Boston, which is its
Irish.
own world.
Yeah.
Love Boston. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of family in Boston.
Okay.
Big, we're Sullivans, a lot of Irish.
Yeah.
And anyways, grew up in a loving household. Parents, showed me all the basic stuff. But I also grew up. I have two brothers, and I grew up around alcoholism on both sides of my family.
Okay.
So it was like work hard and party harder,
Right.
and go back to work on Monday morning.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing real traumatic as a child, that I could pinpoint. It was just like everybody drank and had a great time.
Yeah. So your mom's a Texan, and I know that. I'm from Texas. Everybody drinks there. And
absolutely.
I think all the Irish guys in Boston drink. That's just kind of the way it goes, right?
It's what you do.
Yeah.
It's like when you're not drinking, you drink beer.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're not drinking the real stuff, you're drinking beer. Right?
Yeah, just to
gotta wash it down.
Yeah.
So, are you the oldest out of the boy?
I'm the oldest out of my brothers.
Okay.
I have my middle brother's 2 years younger than me, and my youngest is 7 years younger than me.
Okay. All right. So, growing up in Santa Ana, 80s and 90s, what was that like being a kid there?
I remember beginning in like first grade, just like a lot of fights.
Yeah.
A lot of violence in Santa Ana.
Yeah.
Growing up in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood.
Yeah.
I was like the minority in school, so I felt like maybe that was, and it could have. I mean, I just got picked on a lot.
Right.
And me and my brother were close in each other's grades, so we would back each other up. And
Yeah.
I remember literally like getting in a fight with like second grade, and my brother like doing a jump kick through the air to like knock this dude down.
He's in first grade.
He's in first grade.
Doing a Bruce
and we're
Lee
getting in a
karate
full-on
kick.
riot situation, and that's just how the streets of Santa Ana were.
And that's how the 80s and 90s were.
And
A
that's
fight
how the
was a
80s
fight,
and 90s
you
were.
know?
Yeah, you fought and then you moved on.
Right. Now a middle schooler gets in a fight, assault and battery, right? So
Exactly. Yeah, they'd like send you home for the day, maybe at the worst back then.
Yeah.
But
Santa Ana, 80s and 90s, you're a white guy growing up in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, I assume. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so felt like you got picked on a lot. And
Yeah, they definitely were rough with me.
Yeah.
They taught me the ropes though about street survival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and there was alcohol in your home. Do you remember the first time you drank or?
Yeah, absolutely. My neighbor, he was like 5 years older than me, and I always was like wanting to go over there and hang out with those guys. And he gave me my first beer when I was like 11 years old.
Okay.
And I remember it tasted like shit, but then like 3 of them, I started feeling really good.
Yeah.
And I remember like for the first time I took a deep breath and like I was relaxed.
Yeah.
Because I had all this racing, always like doing crazy shit growing up as a kid. Before I ever took my first drink, I was behaving alcoholically.
Right.
Trying to derail trains in my neighborhood,
Right.
throwing rocks at cars.
Yeah.
I remember trying to light the neighbor's like house on fire underneath, like throwing matches at the gas pipes, not even know what I'm doing though.
Yeah.
Punching kids for no reason, not knowing why I'm full of anger.
Yeah.
And anyways, that drink, like I was like, man, this whatever this is, it feels right. You know, it's like this needs to be in me.
Calms us down.
Calms me down.
There's so many of us that tell that story about that first drink when we're 10 or 11 years old, and it just get that first sense of ease and comfort.
Ease and comfort, absolutely.
We were always like looking for or searching for, and that's also like seems to be a common theme too. People that I talk to, including myself, we were always like doing extreme stuff from the beginning. You know,
absolutely.
So I remember lighting the woods on fire in Texas, where I'm from, and burnt down like 13 acres just because I wanted to see big fires. You know,
exactly.
So, didn't mean to light 13 acres on fire. I just,
you just did
lit a big fire, and it turned into a bigger fire.
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
So you had that first drink at 11, and then where did it go from there?
So I had smoked weed when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
And then I started smoking weed around 10.
Yeah.
And
at 10?
At 10.
What grade are you in at 10? Let's see, my son's 14. He's in 8th grade. So
maybe
you're in
sixth
like
or seventh.
5th or 6th grade.
5th or 6th, yeah.
Wow.
I remember smoking weed, and I started drinking, and then I did my first line of crystal meth at the age of 13 years old.
Okay.
14 years old.
So 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, something like that.
8th grade.
Oh, wow.
8th grade going into 9th.
So tell me that story, first time you did
my neighbors across the street were all older, crazy guys, and they all did drugs and partied all night. And I remember we would like sit out and smoke weed together, and then they would go to the room and come back out. And I'm like, what? And one day I was like walking in there, and they're doing rails, and I'm like, what is that? They're like, you don't want this, you know? And I'm like, actually, I think I do want that, you know?
Yeah.
Let me try that, you know? And it was like that red crank from back in the 90s, you know? And I did it, and I remember feeling like on top of the world, man. Like, it was a very enjoyable high, and I was like, this is fucking rad. Like, and I just was tweaking like all of the 90s, man. Like all through high school, out every night until 5 in the morning. I'd sneak back into my house before my dad would wake up for work, and I'm tweaking through high school, running the streets at night. Yeah, hardcore. Like,
were you in school? Were you going to school?
I was still going to school and maintaining, because my dad did lay a firm like law down with school, and the only reason I even graduated high school, I mean, I know now, was because I was on meth. Right. Like, I was like, I'll do some homework now, you know, like, and like all that stuff. And
kept the heat off your dad, right?
Kept the heat off my dad, like, and I was pulling it off, because I was like, man, this is fun. I had like this double life already. Yeah. I'm going out all night in the underworld of the meth world. Right. And then I'm coming home and going to school during the day.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Foothill High School. Okay. In Santa Ana Hills.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to high school, doing math,
smoking weed every day, and just partying. And I started, you know, I was like, I'm an athlete guy, and I remember like by sophomore year, I'm already just full blown drug addict. Yeah, like sports aren't in my future anymore. Right. I'm like doing drugs, and that's all I really cared about.
What sports were you into before that?
I played baseball and basketball, and I'm also like, I love surfing, snowboarding, wakeboarding, wake surfing. I do all the sideways sports, you know.
So that all went out the window in 10th grade.
The organized sports did. I still like to surf on drugs, you know, or go snowboarding, or you know, but all that. But anything to do with like, you know, organized stuff,
team
practice.
Stuff.
I'm not. You won't catch me at practice. You know, I'm that guy smoking cigarettes. Right. You know, they're like, "What are you doing, dude? Like, you're benched." You know, like, okay, whatever. Yeah. You know, and I just didn't care. So. Yeah.
So you graduate Foothill High School, and then what was your plan? Now you're supposed to be an adult or go to college?
Yeah, I barely graduated like through like continuation school. I went to Hillview, the continuation, and then got my diploma. And then after that, it was at the like the moment I turned 18, it just went like way downhill quick. Yeah. There was no more like having. I left my parents' house ran away, running the streets. I remember going to jail for the first time like a couple months after my 18th birthday.
Okay, so tell me about that first time.
I stole a car. Okay. And I got caught for stealing a car. Went to the county jail. I'm walking in there. This surfer kid from Orange County. I remember walking down the tier barefoot. You know, I guess you're not supposed to do that in there. And they're like, "Hey, what are you doing, man?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know." Right. But anyways, it was just like a scary environment in there. But I remember thinking to myself, you got to kind of either be like a victim or you stand up for yourself. And I'm like, I'm not going to, victim's not in my blood. So I'm like, I'm just going to stand up for myself. And I started just kind of learning the ways of the system.
So you're 18 years old. You got put in jail for the first time. How long were you in there?
For the first time, I got 30 days.
Okay.
And I was out.
All right.
And then I just started going in and out, in and out, in and out. Once in a while, I would check into a rehab to get the probation off my back. Yeah. But I'm just this full-blown drug addict by the age of 18 that is just in and out of the system. I'm breaking every law in the book. I'm barely holding a job down once in a great while for like a month or two. And then I miss work because I can't handle going to work because I've been up for freaking forever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, made a commitment to myself, like I just need to like literally like learn the underworld of the drug scene and just learn how to do things and get away with them and not work. And just like, in the worst case scenario, I go to jail where I know everybody. And it wasn't a consequence anymore to me. It was like, this is my way of life now.
Yeah. So 18, you went to jail for the first time, 30 days, got out, and then what? Like when's the next time you went to jail and for how long?
Yeah, I think like I was out for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then I'm back in jail on a violation.
Okay.
I'm on probation. And I do a bunch. Back then, dirty test, you go to jail for months at a time.
Yeah.
And then once I got my 3rd violation of probation for something to do with some stupid drug, dirty test or possession, and then they sent me to prison at the age of 21.
Okay, so you go to prison for the first time.
I go 21. To prison. I end up on the yard up in Wasco,
what was that,
California.
Like 21?
Scary.
Yeah.
I remember once again I'm asking my older friends that are real gangsters. They're like, I'm like, what do I do? And they're like, you don't put up with anything, dude.
Right.
If anybody disrespects you, you just take off on them right there on the spot.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. So I just, I'm this scared little youngster kid, and I'm not a tough guy, man. Like I molded into a tough guy though.
Yeah.
But and I am a bigger guy, so that kind of helped a little bit. And that people are like, I'm going to pick this guy instead of you, to fuck with, But I just remember being in prison and just making another decision, like, I'm not going to be a victim in here. I'm going to survive, do what I have to do. And I'm not, like I said, luckily I didn't go like all the way with it. I just did enough to survive and learn how to become a better criminal and pick up more drug dealers hookups.
So it's like going to school almost.
I was going to school for sure.
Yeah.
Educating myself on how to have respect and honor while being a drug addict.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like that's
street code stuff.
Street code stuff. You know?
Yeah. And so how long did you go to prison for the first time?
The first time I got 16 months.
Okay.
And then I had a bunch of county credit. So I was like literally up there for 6 months and I was out.
Okay.
And when I got out, I was so far gone with like learning that, like, I was like, I got out, I went home, I saw my family, I ate some steak, we had a barbecue, I had a chick come pick me up, we went and did some dope and had sex all night, and the next day I committed a crime and picked up another prison sentence in a matter of 72 hours.
So in 72 hours you're on the way
it felt like a weekend furlough.
Yeah.
A weekend pass from prison,
Yeah. And do you remember like going back and like how your mom and dad, you seeing them and how you felt seeing those guys when you were doing all this? Did that have any effect on you at all?
I didn't have this. I built this concrete like protection fortress around my consciousness.
Right.
Because you can't really enjoy the street life with a conscious.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and stuff that down because I'm just going to enjoy this while it's going. And so anyways, there was like, it was real sad looking back now what my mom and dad, I had put them through, but I just didn't, I was on my way to the wrong direction.
Yeah. So 72 hours later, you're on the way back to prison.
On my way back to prison. I'm back in the county jail and I'm facing another 3 years, and I get sentenced back up there. And this time I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I've already been here. I know how this works.
Same place?
Same place. Okay. Back to Wasco.
Okay.
Same place. And then I'm like, okay, now I know what to do. And within the first week of being there, I get in a riot. The whites and the Mexicans, right?
Yeah.
We get in a prison riot over some pancakes or some stupid shit, right? And I end up going to the cells, and then I'm picking up time, and then I end up, and then I get to the cells, and then I'm trying to be this tough guy in the cells, and like now I'm like, okay, homeboy just got in a riot and he held his own. And then I had my cellie that needed to be like handled, right, for some dumb shit, for disrespecting somebody that you're not allowed to disrespect.
Right.
So I had to beat him up.
Yeah.
And now I'm just stuck like with all these jacked up prison points. And like I end up going to a place called Fentanyl, and that out in the desert. And that's like a kind of a 120 degree living hell out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just, do my thing out there, and that's when I actually, the one of the programs I work with now in the recovery world, the owner was in prison with me in Centinela.
Oh, that's cool.
His name is Michael Lynch.
Okay.
And we came up with a thing in there where he had an idea to like have felons fight each other on camera. It was called Felony Fights. And he thought about that on the yard in Centinela.
Okay.
And it became like this big YouTube thing.
Yeah.
And anyways, so that was like doing my thing there. I get out and I do like 2 years there. I get out, come back home, and I'm just like, at this point, I'm just following down one very narrow-minded path, right?
You had no thought at that point of ever getting cleaned up?
No, I couldn't wait to get out and go on the run again.
Do it again.
I still hadn't been beat up enough yet.
Yeah.
I was full-fledged, full flight from reality,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I had plans. I remember even telling guys in there, like, I can't wait to get out and shoot some dope and go on the run.
So at this time, you're in your, late 20s?
Yeah, I'm like 24.
Okay.
Right, and I remember even some of the guys in there that are like hardcore are like, bro, that's not the right way to think.
Yeah.
Like, you should plan on maybe trying to get out and do the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, nah, like,
Yeah.
you know what, like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Like, and then I remember one of my friends telling me, you haven't done enough time yet, then, man, because you're obviously like, some of those guys are sitting there for 20, 30 years, and they're like, bro, you don't get it, man.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
And anyways, I get out and go back, and I just keep repeating this over and over, and I end up doing like, I go to prison in and out like 6 times.
You went to prison 6 times?
I went to prison 6 fucking times, man.
Wow.
And I've been all over the state of California. I've ended up in Corcoran and just all kinds of places, right? None of that stuff, I want to make it very clear. I say this as part of my story to shame my disease, because these are the places I end up.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do prison time to get high one night.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I go.
Yeah.
If it costs me another 2 years of my life, that's fine. And once you get in there, you learn how to kind of stay high and drunk in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to there wasn't enough consequences, I felt like, in my own mind, where like this wasn't bad enough for me to change my ways.
Right.
I learned how to produce vodka in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I learned there was drugs. And it's just, that's all I ever cared about, whether I'm in or out.
Yeah.
I just need to get high.
Yeah.
I don't have any other choice. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So one of the times I'd gotten out, and I'm running around the streets, and I had met some people in there that they're involved with stuff down in Mexico, and I went down to Tijuana, and I'm hanging out with some friends, and I ran into a couple of these guys, and they had remembered me from the inside, and they're like, hey, you want to, we have some families down here that would be able to offer you a job. Mm-hmm. I said, oh, cool. Like, what, doing what? They're like, transporting and making money, like free drugs and free money. How does that sound? And I'm like, that sounds fucking amazing. Let's go.
Yeah.
So anyways, I start doing that stuff down in Mexico. I get set up down there. This is kind of an interesting story, right? I'm in Mexico. I get caught up with this, I don't want to say the word cartel, but it's an organized family, right? And once again, I'm not a mafia guy. I'm not a gangster. I just am a hopeless drug addict that doesn't care whether he lives or dies.
Right.
So I am okay with going all the way.
Yeah.
And I get involved with this guy. I'm transporting stuff back and forth, and another family sets the family I'm with up because they want to remove the competition.
Right.
They pay the federales a bunch of money to come in with AK-47s and arrest all of us, right?
Yeah.
So they come in with AK-47 ski mask on, and I'm thinking, dude, I'm gonna fucking die today.
Yeah.
And they put a gun to my head, and they fully set up this fabricated thing where they make some illegal aliens get in the car, and they made they put some cocaine and stuff in the car, and these guys' legs are like hanging out of the car, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like a, and they put a AK-47 in my head, and they said, "Get in the driver's seat, Tyson." And I don't even think they knew my name. Then they said, "Just Gringo, get in the driver's seat." And I'm like, and I picked up on what they were about to do, and I'm like, I'm not getting in that driver's seat. And they're like, "Yeah, you are." And I could tell they were serious. And I was like, I'm not going to say no to an AK-47. So I got in the driver's seat, and then they started taking pictures, like I'm getting ready to go transport drugs, And they take me, put a ski mask over my head, put me in the back of a Dodge Ram, and they drive me up to the mountains, the hills of Tijuana, and I'm thinking they're going to go shoot me in the head.
Yeah.
And we pull up to a federal holding facility, a Mexican jail. And I go in, they book me in, and I start learning the process of being in Mexican jail. In about a week, they transfer me to a Mexican prison in Tijuana called La Mesa. I go over there, and you can imagine the conditions inside of there, what you have to do to survive. And I hate to say it this way, but luckily I'd already kind of known about being institutionalized, so I knew somewhat like what to do.
Yeah.
And that, I think, really did help me survive, and I had to do what I had to do the first couple of days in there to show that I'm not the one. They try to humiliate you and all that fun stuff, and I'm like, nah. So anyways, I'm looking at 6 years in Mexican prison. You're guilty until you prove your innocence. It's the opposite of American culture. And if you get 5 years or more, you have to do every single day of that sentence.
Okay.
So if I get
no part-time.
There's no part-time, no good time. But if you get under 5 years, you can actually bail out instead of serving your time, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, I'm right at that cap where if I get to 6 years, I'm screwed.
Right.
So anyways, a stroke of luck, which I now call my higher power, getting involved. I saw the federale who set me up. He's in prison in protective custody for corruption. I ran into him going to the hospital, and I'm like, I know that guy, dude. I'm like, what the heck? So I find out why he's in there. I talk to my attorney. The judge gives me leniency because he knows that it's a corrupt official. So she gives me 2 years. I was in there for 5 months fighting my case.
Yeah.
And I'm just horrible conditions. 40 guys in one cell that are supposed to be 6 guys. You're sitting next to it's just everything you would imagine happens in there, right?
Right.
And anyways, I got that stroke of luck, which I now call God working in my life, and I got to come home, and I bailed out for $500 American, which my family helped me get out.
Oh, wow.
Instead of doing 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. And I come home, and I literally run to the border, right, when I get released that night. And I come, and I'm like telling the Border Patrol, I'm an American citizen, man. Just please let me go fucking home. And they're like, all right, calm down, sir. And I get home. And you think that story would probably change a lot of people's lives, right?
Did you have any moment in that time where you're like,
I did.
okay, I'm going to get my shit together?
I'm like, I'm going home,
Yeah.
and I'm literally going to, actually, if I'm honest, I actually was like, I'm going to go home, and I told myself I'm going to go rob a bank. That's what I told myself, because I thought I was just so far, I'm like, I have nothing, I don't have anything to live for anymore.
Yeah.
And anyways, that was my plan, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, and then in worst case scenario, I end up in federal American prison. I just came from Mexican prison.
Right.
I'm going to level up.
Yeah.
If I get caught.
Yeah.
Or I get a bunch of money and I
Yeah.
move on with my life.
Yeah.
Anyways, long story short, a girl that was in my life, my girlfriend at the time, her and her family, she moved me in with her down in South Orange County, and I just had a good one, just a little bit of love and grace from somebody saying, hey, come move in with me. We'll help you.
Yeah.
That changed my shift where I'm like, okay, actually, I'm not going to go rob a bank right now,
Yeah.
So I started for like a week. I remember, because she was an alcohol rep. She worked for an alcohol company.
Yeah.
And her house was filled with booze, right?
Right.
And I remember thinking, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to get high. I need to change.
Right.
And I felt that for 1 week with no action behind it. No going to a meeting, no. So a week later, I start drinking and using. I lose my gratefulness within 1 week.
That's what happens if we don't do anything to.
If we don't do anything, we're fucked.
Right.
And that is like a situation that proves what we suffer from.
Sure.
Because Mexican prison is like you would think that's as bad as it gets, right?
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're gonna like, dude, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
Right. And then I did do it again, you know, and I had no choice in the matter because I didn't know how you get out of that, right? So I start going back into my stuff again, getting really heavily. By this time, I'm just a full-fledged IV drug user. Oh, by the way, all that booze in her house, I shot through it in about 3 months.
Right.
It was gone. I was like, challenge accepted, man.
Yeah.
And I drank it all,
Right.
you know, and that's the kind of guy I am. There's never enough of anything.
Yeah.
I remember having like so many times having plenty of, like, I always thought if I can just get enough drugs to get me through a couple of years, I can figure my life out, right?
Yeah.
And I would get that amount of drugs and I would be this miserable fucking person that would do too much of it and I wouldn't even feel the relief anymore that I used to feel.
Yeah.
And that's a scary fucking place to be for a guy like us, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I can't even get well, you know? I don't know what to do. So anyways, I start back into my old behaviors. This time, the pill epidemic's going on. I start getting into Oxycontin, doing all the doctor shopping stuff.
So you went from meth to
Heroin to pills, right?
Okay.
And I start getting deep into that, you know, and anything I pick up, I go all the way with it, you know, and I start using, and I do, opiates were definitely like, I even, as weird as it sounds, would say like opiates saved me from being a tweaker.
Right.
You know, I like.
That makes sense to me.
Okay, you understand that, right? Like, I'm like, dude, I'm actually good on meth, bro. Like, this stuff's way more chill. It keeps me from wanting to, you know, it kept me out of trouble, right?
Yeah.
How crazy as that sounds, right? And that by that time, the meth wasn't even real anymore.
Right.
You know, they lost this along the way. When I went to prison and came back, people were doing meth and ended up in the psych ward instead of being bikers, staying up all night or whatever. Like, I'm like, what's going on with this shit? You know, and they're mixing it with all this weird shit. And, and even when I would do it, I'm like, before I never had that paranoid, delusional psychosis stuff, and then I started feeling that way, and I'm like, dude. Anyway, so I get into the opiate scene, and I got so bad on pills that one day I'm just back in my hopeless state of suicidal ideation mind, not giving a fuck about living or dying, and I'm in a hopeless situation, and I go rob my local pharmacy. I go and hold it at Knife Point and Dana Point, rob a CVS. And luckily, my higher power once again steps in. I get 5 guys that are Marines and a security guard that come run. I'm such in a Xanax fog that I'm so blacked out. I'm emptying out the safe. And all of a sudden, 6 guys jump behind me and start kicking the shit out of me, knocking my head into the safe.
Just some Marines happened to be in there.
Marines that were just like, and now I truly believe those Marines saved my life. Because I was about to probably run out to the Orange County Sheriff opening fire on me. You know, and I truly believe that probably would have happened.
And they were outside.
They were outside waiting for me. I was so blacked out, and this was not going to be a successful day for me. You know. So, anyways, they get me. They finally. I'm so blacked out that by the 10th time of my head hitting the safe, I'm like, is somebody attacking me right now?
Right.
You know, I'm so far gone. Finally, they get me in cuffs. They take me in. And I'm looking at like 13 years in prison for this, right? Because of my history. And I'm fucked, man. It is what it is. And I didn't even care. At that point, I'm like, whatever, you know? And another stroke of situation happened where I actually was like, I had lawyers coming to me saying, you have a civil suit against CVS because you were attacked during a commission of a crime. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Like, they're like, you can make some money on this. And I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, dude, and then of course I'm like, man, but so anyway, CVS and the DA had me sign a paper that they were going to give me the lowest amount of time they could give me as long as I wasn't going to sue them.
Oh, okay. So
which
it's like
is
a negotiation.
Nuts, a negotiation, right? And I'm like, are you fucking like the ball's in my court?
I've never heard of that. Yeah, because
like,
you got beat up.
Because I got beat up and assaulted.
Yeah.
And the security guard wasn't supposed to do that, I guess, right? The Marines are allowed to.
Yeah. But
not the security guard. So, anyways, I get 2 years for that, right? And I'm like, oh wow, like, and once again, you think, okay, Tyson, here's another grace from the universe. And what are you going to do with it, Tyson? And I didn't do shit with it. Again, I do my time. I get back out. I'm back on drugs again. But I'm nearing the end of my stuff here with that.
Yeah.
At this point, my mind is just mentally gone. I end up in a psych ward after getting out on that one from just so much delusional meth using, being up too long, and just years of abuse on my mind. I'm gone, and my girlfriend like calls, puts me 5150s me,
right?
And I end up in there, and I remember just like being like everything was a conspiracy at that point. I couldn't trust anybody. Like I was just, and that's a physical bottom for me. Is death. Yeah. There's not enough physical harm you can give me to where I'm like, okay, but mental, was my higher power's way of like getting my attention, because when I can't even decipher reality, I can't handle that. Yeah. I'm just that guy, right? Yeah. So I'm like, dude, man, I catch one more prison sentence. I get arrested for a cotton of heroin. I go to prison for 16 months for a cotton of heroin because of my record.
Right.
And while I'm in there, the laws change. Proposition 47 passes,
right,
turning a possession into a misdemeanor from a felony. Yeah. And I get an opportunity to go home. And they said, part of your conditions is you have to go to a rehab for 6 months. Okay. Right? And then you can discharge parole from the rehab. Yeah. And I'm like, where do I sign? Like, I don't care. Yeah. And during that last time, I hadn't prayed or acknowledged any kind of existence of God in probably 15 years of my drug abuse. And there was never God help me. It was more like F you, God. Yeah. I don't actually believe in that shit. Right. And I think it's a crutch. Yeah. But this time I actually started the most simple. I remember sitting in my my prison cell going, God, please help me. And I swear, once I brought that communication back, I connected back to the source. Yeah. And I really believe that's when God started working in my life again. And I got to go to rehab here in Costa Mesa.
Where'd you go?
Yellowstone.
Okay.
So I go to the parolee program at Yellowstone. Awesome. I get there at the end of 2014. And I'm in there, and I'm like, I kind of want this, but I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. Right. And I go on job search after 30 days, and I call my ex-girlfriend, hey, come, I want to have sex, right? But while I'm having sex, I'm like, I know there's heroin in her purse. Yeah. And then I stop like mid-thrust, and I'm like, where's your dope? And she's like, oh, Tyson. I'm like, and I get high, and I go back, and I run off, and I, Honey, the director of Yellowstone, and my parole officer said, we're going to give you one more chance before we violate you and send you back to prison, Tyson. And in that moment when I came back, I had MRSA infection in my foot. I'm on crutches. I'm looking in the mirror. I had a moment of clarity. Yeah. I'm like gray hair now. My teeth are rotting out. And I'm like, Tyson, the gig's up, man. Like, and the universe was screaming at me, this is your moment, Tyson. We're calling you up to the big leagues to change your life, bro. Yeah. And I took full advantage of it. I came back. I went 100% in with this program. I had a man take me through the steps, and I sit before you here a transformed human being because of going all in with the program.
So what was that like, going through the steps? You had never done it, like you're all in.
I had tried it before. Yeah. I went to Woodland back in like 02, 03 for a very brief amount of time. But back then I was fully into the other way of life. Yeah. And I remember like getting to step 4, and then when it was time to start putting pen to paper, I'm like, nah, I'm good. So that's as far as I got. I've gone to step 3 a couple of times in my life, but this time going through all 12 steps and working them with pure honesty and telling a man my deepest, darkest secrets, to always telling on myself and like not having, at this point, I have nothing to lose, man. Yeah. Where I just came from, anything you told me made sense in AA at this point in my life, because over there did not make any sense anymore. Yeah. And you could have told me we're going to put on black Nikes and we're going to do a spaceship to meet Jesus in Mars, and I would have told you I wore a size 12 at that point in my life. You
were just ready to hear, ready to listen. Yeah,
I'm ready to listen and take the action.
Yeah. So you did that 4th and 5th step with a sponsor, and then 6 and 7. What was that like going through 8 and 9 with all the wreckage you kind of committed? For people that don't know, 8 and 9 is the part where we make a list of people we hurt and we go to them and make amends. What was that like?
Step 9 was one of the biggest gifts of my sobriety. the ability, the power of forgiveness with family dynamics is one of the most special things about our program. Being able to go sit down with my mom and dad, my brothers, some old friends, start making things right, start making some financial payments, paying back people. And I remember hearing phones drop when I would say, I want to give you your money back.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, really?
Yeah.
You know, and I love step 9 because even no matter how badly you're like, man, God saved me.
Yeah.
And the person's like, but you owe me $200, dude. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm glad God saved you, but can I get paid?
Yeah.
But anyways, I just the amends now, even 9 years sober, my living amends to my mom and dad and my loved ones is when my mom calls me. Before, when I'm on drugs, my mom's calling, you know, voicemail. Now it's like, no matter what you're doing, Tyson, stop and answer your mom and give her your utmost attention. Right? And when my dad calls, I'm going to take time out. And now those living amends they keep evolving as I go along.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong, amazing journey to learn how to love your family more and more and more through the act of you know, that stuff. So
absolutely. So you spent 6 months in Yellowstone, and then what happened?
I actually spent 2 years in Yellowstone.
Oh, you spent 2 years.
I only
there.
needed to be there for 6 months, but I went all in with it. I ended up becoming a staff member there. I'm now a board of director member of Yellowstone.
Oh, that's neat.
Which is an honor to help. And when I first went there, my parole officer said, this is a woman's home. And I said, sweet, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not a woman's home anymore. It's co-ed. And then after that, at 2 years, I got a new job and started working in the recovery world.
Right.
I started doing admissions at Yellowstone, and I was really good at talking to addicts on the phone.
Sure.
I'm like, dude, this is like...
Been there, done that.
This
you
is
know
me.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're telling me my story every time they call, and I'm like, yeah, I know how you feel, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
And they felt that you knew how
They
you feel
felt
because you
too.
really knew how they felt.
Especially when they come and meet me, they're like, oh, this guy's for real.
Right.
You know, so I got really good at that, and I started doing admissions full time. I got a job at another treatment center, and committed my career became recovery, you know, and so I started doing that and working in recovery ever since I've been sober. For 9 years now.
So you got a job at Yellowstone, then what happened? Like, so you're 2 years sober. Just kind of take me through your 9 years, man.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. So I go to a treatment center down in South Orange County and start working doing admissions for them. At this time, I had met a girl in the program, and we got, you know, we started, you know, she was my girlfriend, and she's serious about recovery. You know, we had a really cool thing going. She ended up becoming my wife, and we have 2 children together. Nice. We're no longer together, but we are amazing co-parents, sober co-parents that give those children everything they need. And that's a huge gift of this program.
Sure.
My son's 6, my daughter's 4. I started working in recovery full time. We moved in, we got married, and my career, you know, I went from one treatment center, and then I worked a couple years at another one, and then the most recent one I'm at. So from like year 2 of leaving Yellowstone up to like year 6 or 7, I've been working full time and also full time in Alcoholics Anonymous. I live and breathe helping people.
Right.
I got involved with Charlie Street.
Yeah.
I became, you know, work on one of the committies there.
Oh, you're on committee at Charlie Street.
Yeah.
Nice.
I work, volunteer my time there. There's 13 committees. I'm on committee number 2. My first apartment I got from Yellowstone, we lived behind the wall of Charlie Street in the apartment complex there. And that's when I first started going there. I started jumping the wall to Sunday night meetings, and I'm like, this place is amazing, dude. I used to always think it was a place you end up if you're homeless and out of luck. No, it's a place you end up if you have alcoholism, right?
And it's special.
It's a special, that's God's house right there. That place transformed my program, and I just been, you know, every day the spiritual, the daily reprieve for me. You know, and I've been working, you know, and I started progressing in my career. I became an interventionist. I started getting involved with nonprofit organizations. I have the privilege of being on another board of directors for the Knoll Family Foundation. They are the Sublime family. Bradley Knoll, who overdosed and died in 1996. His family, his mom, his brother, his dad, his stepmom. They're all heavily involved, and they have a foundation that we started, and we opened up a men's musician home, sober living, free for 90 days. And it's called Bradley's House.
And that's in Los Angeles?
That's in Redlands.
Redlands, okay.
Yeah. We were going to try and do Long Beach area, which we're going to probably eventually end up. But we just, financially, we needed to get something going.
Yeah.
So we just opened up. The house is beautiful. And if you are in the music industry or anything connected to it, feel free to, reach out, and we can see if you might be a good fit for Bradley's House,
Okay.
And then I started.
Can people just look that up online? Just type in Bradley's House.
Go to the nullfamilyfoundation.org.
Okay.
The nullfamilyfoundation.org. But yeah, if you look up Bradley's House, there's some kind of information, and I'm more than happy to give my number and info at the end.
Okay.
I also worked. So I reunited with my friend I was telling you about. From an outpatient.
So the guy you're in prison with that came up with felony fights?
Felony fights, yeah. His name is Michael Lynch, and he started a program, sober living, called Stairway Recovery Homes.
Which I get to come see next week.
Which you'll be coming to see next week. We're excited to have you. And they started with one sober living as a passion project in the Valley. Mm-hmm. And then he turned it into 10 or 11 homes with an outpatient center. Yeah. And it's a very structured, serious environment. If you you're going to get a sponsor and you're going to start working steps, or we're probably not the place for you.
Right.
It's just that is what it is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't offer other models there. Mm-hmm. If you're not going to work steps, you need to probably find another place to go, and that's just what we do.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the only way, but that's our way, and that's what works. And we have a really rad community out there. And then by another God working in my life through recovery. My brother who's 2 years younger than me, his name's Corey Sullivan. He went to prison for 10 years straight, right? He just did 10 years, got out about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And while he was in there, he transformed his life after watching the transformation that I did.
Yeah.
He got clean in there, and now he has 6 years sober, right?
Yeah.
And he's doing the same stuff we do, working a program, helping people. Has a beautiful family, just had a son, and just amazing stuff's been happening for him. And we had the opportunity recently to come together and start our own recovery center.
Oh, that's neat.
And we just opened our doors 1 week ago.
Last week. We were talking about that earlier.
We have a detox center that is called Sullivan Recovery. It's our last name, right?
Yeah.
And when one of my partners talked to me, he was kind of our guy that's been around and helping mentor me and my brother on stuff. And he's like, we're thinking of a name. And he goes, well, honestly, you guys need to name it Sullivan, man. And I'm like, and we looked at each other like, we're not going to argue with that,
Yeah.
And we're like, okay. So we went with it all the way with it. And now all these years of practicing, I now know why God has had me doing what I'm doing, to learn how to actually have my own and to help more people get help, and I've dedicated my life to this thing. I live and breathe recovery. It's what I do.
So one of the things I always talk about, it's I got sober 17 years ago.
Congratulations. It's amazing.
We did coke, we did meth, we drank, oxycodone was starting to kind of become a thing. We dabbled in that I think the year before I got sober. But the world has just changed so much with fentanyl, and you and I have talked about this over lunch, and I want to hear a little bit about your fuck fentanyl,
absolutely,
kind of deal. But I want to know your opinion on what the difference is now. I mean, because even 9 years ago, this fentanyl wasn't even a thing.
No,
right?
I had seen a little bit of it from a doctor, the patches and stuff, but the fentanyl hadn't been on the streets when I got sober.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
Right.
All I know is, since I've worked in recovery, I've dedicated a big part of my life now to declaring war on the fentanyl epidemic.
Yeah.
I'm so fucking fed up, man.
Right.
This is what is going on?
Yeah.
People are being poisoned that aren't even fentanyl addicts.
Right.
So that needs to be a national emergency, in my opinion. I'm not sure why it's not.
Yeah.
Why it's not being treated like 9/11.
Yeah.
You know, like we need to like declare war on this shit
Yeah.
and go start doing something about it, right? I don't know what that looks like. I'm not, you know, I don't work for Washington D.C., but
Sure.
they need to do something, man.
They're not doing anything, or it doesn't seem like it.
I don't know. Yeah,
It's like 300 people a day are dying. It's 112,000 people a year. Last year, I think, is what I read, or maybe it was 121,000, but it was well over 100,000 people died last year. It's the biggest killer, 18 to 45.
If they are doing something about it,
Yeah.
can you let us know what that is?
Yeah,
We'd like to know.
And my friend asked it was down at Camp Pendleton the other day, asked one of the, Marines that was up, I don't know if he was a colonel or whatever, how long would it take for you guys to secure the border? And they said about 48 hours. It's like, we're not,
dude.
It's like,
you see them, they're like going through the cracks of the fence.
Yeah.
Like it's, but, I mean, I don't know so I used to think there was a lot of conspiracies going on with this fentanyl epidemic, because I'm like, why would somebody sell a drug that's going to kill their customer?
Right.
As a former failed drug dealer, it sounds like another failure, right?
Yeah.
So I started doing, a lot of research on that, and I thought there's got to be something that's going on here. But the sad truth that I came to find out with the fentanyl epidemic is there is so much money to be made by producing those pills. You can buy a kilo of this stuff for $50,000, press 1 million pills, and sell each pill for $2 to $3.
Yeah.
That's $2 to $3 million you can make off of 1 kilo.
Off a $50,000 investment. Yeah.
Unfortunately, human beings are going to choose millions of dollars over a drug addict's life, and a lot of them are.
Yeah.
So that's like literally why they're just not. That's just why people are just fucking dying, man.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep selling it. And that's super sad.
What's confusing to me, and I want to get your opinion on this, is this many people are dying. And, we had 9/11 happen. I think 3,500 people or something like that died. And that was
How long does that take? About 15 days in the fentanyl epidemic? Yeah.
10 days.
Yeah.
15 days maybe. It's like, why isn't this talked about more? Why aren't we getting the press?
It's going to be up to us to talk about it. We need to it's going to take national outcry of the public to make some serious, push our way in there and demand changes to happen.
Yeah.
I just watched a documentary out of Texas. This mom lost her son to fentanyl abuse. She started a nonprofit foundation. Now she's getting laws passed in Texas where you have to give fentanyl education to adolescents in elementary school and junior high and high school. And it's a state law now. So those are the kind of changes that need to start happening, right?
Yeah.
And make it where what's another poison that kills that many people in our country?
Yeah.
I think
nothing.
That's the number one
thing, right? It's the number one killer, 18 to 45, above cancer, car wrecks, accidents.
Yeah.
It's
what else kills 300 people a day in our country?
I don't know.
Maybe cigarettes?
Yeah.
I don't know, but
maybe older people and cigarettes, or they used to.
Yeah,
not that many people smoke anymore, I don't think so.
So are they not wanting to do something about it? This baffles me.
It's bizarre.
I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, and so that you and I are kind of the same way. It's like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. The more I learn about it, the more I'm like, the apathy and just how quiet everything is about it. Yeah. And it's like, and it's gotten to the point where you don't meet too many people that don't know somebody that's been affected by a death from fentanyl, even just walking around, and so
everybody has.
And now in the business we're in, we know somebody every couple weeks. I'm sure you hear about it.
At this point, it's every week.
Yeah.
It's because unfortunately I work in 2 counties now.
Yeah.
So now I have to hear about it even more.
Yeah.
So I lost 2 friends in back to back in the same week, right? Mm-hmm. And I just broke down crying, and I'm like, I couldn't, and I'm like, what is, I was on my phone, I was talking to a friend, and I'm like, you know what, man? I'm like, fuck fentanyl, and then I felt the power of when I said that, and obviously, some of the people on TikTok, that are real savages, they'll be like, oh, look, you saved fentanyl overnight, guys, because you said fuck fentanyl,
Yeah.
But no, that started the spark though, where I'm like, you know what? I started a page on Facebook called Fuck Fentanyl.
Yeah.
And I started making some hats and shirts, and they're cool shirts, but I really love giving them to newcomers to wear, because it gives them this confidence one thing I really wanted to do is when they're in a motel room about to relapse and they look in the mirror and they see fuck fentanyl, I hope it ruins their fucking high.
Right.
You know, but
or maybe changes their mind.
Or
maybe
changes their mind.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what?
Yeah.
I would love to have one story of that, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm like, you know what? So I started this thing where a lot of us came together, fellow addicts in recovery, and we started like, you know, wearing the shirts, doing videos. I like to have people that, especially ones that have lost a loved one, I have them do a video like saying, fuck you, fentanyl. You know, and it really, a lot of the times it's very emotional. I'll see them break down crying.
Yeah.
And it gives them like, and anyways, now it's like, you know, fuck fentanyl and fuck fentanyl dealers. And anybody that's participating in this epidemic that are actually harming addicts that are lost and sick, fuck you too. You know, and some of the visions I have for fuck fentanyl that I'm just about to make it, I give all of anything I make, I give it to other nonprofits or I give the shirts away. I don't make any fucking money on this thing, right? But I wanted to make it a nonprofit like legally, right? And what I want to do with it is the money we raise, I want to like for Narcan. You know, there's a Gideon Bible in every motel room in America, right?
Yeah.
Now, nothing against the Bible, but that's not going to save a fentanyl addicts from overdosing,
Right.
Right? And I want to make it like a thing where we are putting Narcan in every single hotel room, especially 1-star, 2-star motel rooms where it's just hookers and drug addiction in there, and that Narcan is right there, ready to be distributed, and how many thousands of lives would probably be saved if they would have been able to reach over into their drawer. And because unfortunately, a lot of addicts don't walk around with Narcan.
No.
You know, and the sad truth is they don't care if they live or die.
At that point,
you
they
know,
don't.
but they don't even know who they're killing, right? So we
Yeah.
want to just prevent that until maybe their magic happens where they go, man, thank God I didn't die 3 years ago because now I want to get clean.
Yeah.
You know, and that happens to how many of us on a daily basis?
Yeah.
So that's a huge vision I have. And then the ultimate dream would be like fentanyl crisis centers throughout America that are like absolutely funded and free.
Yeah.
Where you come in and we teach you how to like detox safely off the stuff and like just save some lives.
Yeah.
You know, so
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So if you could kind of like sum up your life right now in sobriety, 9 years, what's a day in the life of Tyson look like right now? How do you feel? Like what, you know, you've obviously kind of gone deep into what your mission is, but like
I wake up with so much purpose. I have a purpose-driven life.
Yeah.
I wake up and I have a lot of people counting on me, and that's a huge honor. And I'm not going to let them down, and I'm not going to let myself down. And I start my day by turning my will and my life over to God.
Yeah.
And it's a God of my understanding. God can be defined in many different definitions.
Yeah.
There's not one specific definition. Yeah. But I do my prayers in the morning. I do my meditation. And then I start my day. I have a few of my guys I sponsor call me in the morning to start. We have, you know, the connection. What's the opposite of addiction?
Yeah.
Connection. Right?
Absolutely.
And our connection to each other is what defeats our disease.
Yeah.
It shuts our fucking head up. Yeah. And we like hear other people's positive affirmations and words, and I'm telling other people, and we need each other. Yeah. When we're isolated and left alone, we suffer and die, and we eventually get drunk or high. Yeah. You know, and like so I'm like doing that all day, talking to other people, and then I'm working, you know, doing my day job, which is all day also helping people. Yeah. But that doesn't count. Like if I'm making money, that's not my spiritual duties, right? But then when I'm clocked out and I'm helping guys for fun and for free, then I get to fill my spiritual bank up. Yeah. And that's the part I got to make sure I'm staying on top of, because that's the part that my mind goes, bro, you're not even what are you getting out of that? Yeah. Actually, I'm getting the most peace I've ever gotten in my life, motherfucker.
Yep.
So
and that's the danger in working in this space and
you
being
think
sober. It doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
It doesn't count. No, it doesn't.
Know? And so once again, you know, I don't judge anybody, but if you are in recovery and you work in treatment, I highly encourage you not to let your hours in treatment be your program.
Absolutely.
Make sure you go outside of that and help people and go to meetings.
Absolutely. Okay, so last question. So for that person that was where you were, that just was running and gunning and just was on a mission to get high, right? What's your message for that person, or for that person that maybe just has that little moment of like, hey, is there something else out there?
My message is this. You are your worst enemy, and you don't even understand that because you think you're your best friend. But when you have the disease of addiction, your mind is lying to you on a daily basis on what's best for you. And the only way to break free of that is to ask another man or woman for help. You have to ask for help, or you will continue to get the same exact results.
Amen.
Please ask for help, no matter how much it hurts your fucking pride or how much it doesn't feel right. That first step in our recovery is either picking up the phone or talking to somebody in your house, whatever. Go talk to somebody and ask for help, and that's where the beginning of your recovery will begin.
Love it. Well, you have an incredible story, man. Thank you for coming on and sharing that. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Chris.
And, I appreciate you, and I appreciate all you do.
Appreciate that, brother.
All right, brother.
Right on, man.